Once it's processed, all the ground beef that we make gets sold to the school through our contract. Everything else, mostly the steaks, we take that and we have meat sales here.
Sometimes when you think of stuff and you're like, sometimes the most expensive isn't always the best and the most safest, but in this scenario it is. So you could go a little cheaper with equipment that's a little less, doesn't cost as much. We're kids running it, and so it's kids that are coming out here working on it. We want to make it something where it's real easy to use, it's not very complicated for people. We run this, so the capstone class, we run the building, but then anything that we can do, we can shell off to our other classes, so we can have our animal science classes coming and feeding, and then our ag power classes coming out and building structures and weed eating around this place, so we can usually get everyone else involved around here.
We have brought other schools out to do tours of our farm. I don't know if that's just because they want to learn about it or they're interested in doing it themselves.
Okay, so this is a really different perspective than what we've really ever done before. As you can see, everybody behind me, all of these wonderful people, are part of this amazing program at one of the local schools in Indiana. So we have a whole bunch of people, and we have a show stick for our microphone today because I don't have enough microphones for all these people. So I'm just gonna pass the show stick around. Please tell me who you are and what your position is on this farm, and then we'll dive into how you guys got here and what you're doing, okay? All right, start with you.
I'm Joe Dunn, ag teacher and FFA advisor, and I've been here since the creation of Creek Cattle Company.
I'm Sam Willard, I'm the project manager here.
I am Mitchell Hogue. I'm the CFO, and got started by Mr. Dunn asking me to be on the team. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm Briley Buckler, and I'm the secretary.
I am JC Snyder. I'm the social media manager.
I'm Lila Tupper, and I'm the COO.
I'm Colton Kephart, and I'm the CEO of Creek Cattle.
I'm Grace Ellis, and I am the event coordinator of Creek Cattle.
So yeah, this is why this is a different kind of video today, but we are at Creek Cattle Co. As you can see, their amazing logo up here. And they are part of the school system at a small school here in rural Indiana. And they have a cattle farm that they use to do all kinds of amazing stuff with the beef. So Mr. Dunn, can you talk a little bit about how it was started, and then I'll pass it over to Colton and we'll go into like what's going on now.
Sure.
Okay.
So Creek Cattle Company was started in 2018, the idea of the farm itself. The school itself needed to purchase some land and needed to expand some of the operations here. For example, our bus garage was in the middle of campus, and that's just a terrible place for a bus garage when people are dropping off and picking up students every day. So part of that was purchasing some ground directly south of the school, and they knew there was going to be some land that just wasn't usable. It already had pastures in place. It already had a barn that we didn't use, but we already had some barn, already had a little pad, and the idea was, well, what if we start our own cattle farm here on the school grounds? And there's only a couple in the state, but ours is very unique in its an inception. So it really got started with a lot of fundraising, local community sponsors. Our students went out, asked for donations, asked for grants, and that is really how the funding started, along with the ability to farm the ground for a couple of years before the school actually started doing any of the building. So that's really where the entire concept began. So our logo was hand-drawn by one of our students. Our name was developed by the students. They built the business plan. They presented the business plan to the school. And so we're in year 5 since of having animals on the grounds.
Wow, that's so cool. And like you said, there are there are a few other schools in Indiana that are doing it, but this isn't commonplace. Like this isn't a normal thing through rural Indiana. And Indiana's very rural. To be able to really kind of set some groundwork here is amazing. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think we do it differently than others because we do have this, we have an entire class dedicated to running the farm itself. So these students, and they'll talk about their different capacities and what they do, and you know, most of them have been in an animal science class previously to this year where they actually had to just care for the animals, you know, feed, water, take care of them on a day-to-day basis, but they weren't in the management side of things. And so we actually have developed this class. This is year 2 of the class, and they get to do all of the management decisions, you know, purchasing animals, purchasing feed, everything from top to bottom. So they know how much things cost. They understand the ins and outs of the entire operation.
Can you walk me through then how the animal science classes evolve throughout their high school years?
Yeah, so the way the pathway works for graduation is there's a Principles of Ag class that every freshman has to take. And that's just an introductory to all the ag opportunities there are. So we touch every aspect of agriculture. And then here at Indian Creek, we offer animal science pathway, a plant pathway, and an ag power pathway, which is like your ag mechanics. And so animal science, there are two different classes. There's basic animal science, which is here at Indian Creek is kind of your traditional ag, traditional livestock class, and then the advanced life science is more small animal and vet science based. So if they were going to go to work in a vet office or something, but both of those classes have to take care of the animals. So we take the number of students there are, we'll figure out how many feedings there are for the semester, divide by the number of students, and that's how many they have to do. So this year they have to have 3 feedings, and it counts as a test grade. Just like if they were in band, if they were in choir, you have to do those concerts, same concept. So they have to have 3 throughout the year. And, you know, some of the first days that are selected actually are like Thanksgiving Day and Christmas morning. Like some kids want that as their experience. So it's been fun to grow and watch as it expands.
I love that kids ask for holidays because animals don't care what day the calendar says that it is, or that it's rainy, or that it's cold, or whatever it is. They still need fed and watered, and they need taken care of. So that's really cool. Awesome. Well, thank you for giving us the overview, and I'm really excited to chat with them and see the farm and see how it works. So thanks.
Okay, of course.
Okay, so we're behind the barn. We're looking at the pastures here, and off camera a little bit, I was talking with some of you that you have permanent pastures that you do rotational grazing in.
Yep.
Walk me through a little bit about like the management on the farm, not just physically with the animals and stuff, but also like how are you CEO? How does that work?
So at the very beginning of the school year, we all got to choose positions that we'd like to be, and then we all kind of voted / chose each other to be certain positions.
Okay.
So I chose to be CEO, and then throughout the year we get cattle, we talk to producers, we actually make the calls, it's not Mr. Dunn. So I got on the phone with the producer, we ordered cows, we purchased them, and then with our pastures we have separated them off. So we have a couple animals in the backpack couple pastures that are backgrounding, slow grazing, just kind of keeping them separate. We have a couple beef steers up here that are a little bit more accelerated. They're on pasture and they get a little bit of grain too. We're trying, so that way we have different animals being ready at different times. And then we have a couple of dairy feeders up here that are a little bit more mature, and they're getting on full grain and full pasture that are just finishing up and getting ready to be processed.
Very cool. So then what's the end product here? What do you do with the meat once they're done?
So once it's processed, all the ground beef that we make gets sold to the school through our contract. And then everything else, mostly the steaks, we take that and we have meat sales here. We sell them to the community, the staff, and anybody who just wants to order Creek Cattle products, we sell to them. We actually just finished our sale. We sold mostly pre-sale stuff.
Wow.
And I think we had everything sold before our pickup day, which was September 12th.
Congratulations.
So that was awesome, yeah.
That's amazing. So how many, you said that you're kind of staggering them through size and age and what their nutrition requirements are. How many animals do you finish a year or a class session?
So our goal is to have 12 animals finished this year. Our size is around 3 to 4. About that size is how many we process.
At a time?
At a time. I think it's probably been average of 2 to 3. Yeah, we take those and sell them to the school, sell them to the community, and it's been really good for us and we've done well.
That's awesome. So being CEO, what is your main job in the class and on the farm?
I kind of just the overseer. I oversee all the projects, help where I'm needed. JC needs help with the social media posts, I'll help her. If someone wants me to double check what they're doing, I'll do that. I've made most of the phone calls to people asking about cattle, feed, all that other stuff, and then I coordinate with Mr. Dunn and everyone else and get our ideas for where we want to take the farm to the next steps.
That's really cool. Now, Mr. Dunn talked to us earlier about like your pathway in animal science classes. How were you prepared to take over this role here?
So I started out, like you said, in the Principles of Ag class. So for my freshman year, I was able to do that. That was a good introduction to the ag world and livestock and plants and everything else. A lot of my background is in agriculture. I show a lot of livestock throughout the fall, so that is in spring and summer. So that's really helped me learn more about this. And then I took ag power classes, so that was a little bit different than some other people who took animal science. But I took some ag power classes, and that helped me think more about the equipment we need, how we need to repair it, maintain it, and then helped me think more about the grounds itself, how we need to keep that up to date and clean and fresh and looking good for everybody.
Yeah, I love that. That's so awesome. That's really cool. Let's take a look at the pastures, and we'll get into who is farm manager or project manager?
Yep.
Sam? Okay. Okay, so Sam, we're about to walk into the pastures and you're project manager, right? Okay.
Yes, correct.
So as we're walking in here, tell me a little bit about what you do as a project manager and how that relates to the farm.
What I do is anything that needs done or built or any projects we have here, I usually head up that and coordinate with our ag power class and ag manufacturing classes to help, so we can get them involved and help do projects out here.
Oh, wait a minute, hold on. So this isn't just your animal science class, this is all the ag classes that help.
So we run this, so the capstone class, we run the building, but then anything that we can do, we can shell off to our other classes, so we can have our animal science classes coming and feeding, and then our ag power classes coming out and building structures and weed eating around this place, so we can usually get everyone else involved around here.
So how does that work from a management perspective?
Here recently, we have this lean-to here that it needs cleaned out.
Where the dairy steers
Yes.
are. Okay.
So I've been coordinating with our ag power classes to try and get someone out here to help clean this out, or get a day where we can clean it out and put in new lime. And then we're looking to add on to another building of some sort out here for some shelter for them. So we're coordinating with them on stuff we can build, and then have them build it and put it out there for us.
That's really cool. I think that that's so important that this class is amazing. What you guys are doing here is so cool, but the fact that you're able to integrate other classes that aren't caring for the animals so that they also get the experience in just the overview of raising animals and selling them and caring for them, that's so cool. That is amazing. So what specifically are some of the projects that have been completed already? And we'll stand in the shade if you are okay with that.
So some of the stuff we've had done is like these fencings and stuff we've had our classes build. We've had them pour the concrete for this building, run the electrical, and then we have self-waters out there for the cows. And so we've had our construction or management or manufacturing classes run the water lines out there and plumbing for all those such.
Very cool. How do you feel like, as the project manager, how do you feel like those projects went? Like, did they go very fluid? Did you have some hiccups? I mean, let me clear up that you guys are juniors in high school. You aren't grown adults running your own business on your own farm. So you're not just managing these things, you're learning how to manage these things. So how does that process go?
It goes usually, so we have probably a week or two of notes and studying about how we do it, and then just watching a couple demos of what to do, and then as a class we work together to actually go out and complete these projects to a degree that it's like good enough that it can actually be used and well enough and safe enough.
That's really cool. I love that. So you feel like those projects went relatively smoothly?
Yeah,
then?
It takes some time, but once we get it done, like get started on it, it can get done fairly quickly with as many hands that we have.
Absolutely. I think that that's a really good positive when you are doing something like this versus one farmer running their own farm by themselves, where they're limited to their own hands. We only have 2 hands as humans, and you are able to get more hands on it. That's really awesome. I love that. Very cool. Well, can we go see some of the cows you've got back there? Are we able to walk back there?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, so Mitch, you are kind of like the know of what the animals are that you're raising, and that's kind of like your forte here. So what is your position again?
I'm the CFO.
The CFO,
So
okay.
do kind of the
numbers part of it.
numbers,
Yeah.
write down the records and stuff like that. So.
Okay, so we're walking back here to the cows. They're in a ravine because it's like, 85 degrees right now in full sun. So
Yeah, it's hot.
what kind of cattle do you guys have, and how did you acquire them and stuff?
Yeah, so obviously we've got the dairy calves that are in the front. think that was our main goal to start. But I mean, they're dairy feeders, but primarily it's crossbred beef cattle, black cross. These were bought, I think, very end of August, and so we've had them for 2 or 3 weeks now.
How big were they when you bought them? Like what age?
We had everything from 450 pounds to 800 when we bought them. So
okay,
which was
basically
nice.
just weaning.
Yeah, which was nice because we had 2 different groups that we could separate and feed differently. Yeah, so there's one standing there.
Oh yeah, they're in the bushes
it's
a little bit.
for the middle of September.
For some black cattle, absolutely.
Yeah.
You buy them basically once they're weaned.
Yep.
And then you finish them out. What age are you finishing them out? How big are they about?
Yeah, so with the beef ones, we try to get them to about 1,200 pounds is ideal. So that's about 18 months of age for them. So yeah.
And then you take them to the processor.
Yep.
And is that a local processor?
Yeah. So we go to Maxwell Meats. So they do a really nice job packaging and stuff like that, and we can get a good date with them pretty easy. So
absolutely. So then as CFO, as we're talking through some of these numbers, what's like your job with all of these numbers as CFO?
So the school treasurer, she does like so we send a lot of stuff to her to organize, and then I keep the records. So like we had Farm Credit come out last Friday, and they went over some as a group, they went over like proper record keeping and how to categorize stuff. So I've been working on that the past couple days from the past months of our meat sales, our shirts we've made, cows we bought.
Kind of like keeping a ledger.
Yeah.
Keeping track of your income
I've got
and
a book
expenses.
with all my numbers in. So,
yeah. And what do you do with that information?
So it goes back. We keep it on file with Mr. Dunn, and it's just kind of to see our balance and how much money we have as a group. So.
And then what do you do with that balance? Does that go into like rebuilds
or
buying cattle? Like what do you do with that?
It'll go back to the next group we buy or a project we need to build. Like I think they're gonna build a new lean-to out here, or a shelter. So yeah.
That's really cool.
So we've had talks of maybe in the future adding a breeding program here. So it might help reduce the cost of buying them, and we can raise them and whatnot. And we've got plenty of pasture for that, I think.
So then we talked earlier about these animals go for meat production, and the ground beef goes to the school. You have a contract with them, is what Colton said, and then you also sell it to the public. So how has that been for you personally, and also as a CFO, to see like what the income actually can be from raising cattle like this?
Well, I was really happy with the meat sale. We had good numbers from that, and for how much we can buy these cows for, I think it works out in the long run with how much we made off of our meat sale, and there'll be more to come. So
yeah, so you guys are positive.
Yep.
You're making money.
Yep.
That is awesome. And unfortunately, a lot of farms can't say that.
Right.
Now, with that, do you guys get like any grants or anything?
Yes.
I guess you would probably be considered a nonprofit, right?
Yeah, so that's been a big help with sponsorships and grants we've got from the community and the school and stuff. They've helped a lot in terms of starting up the barn and where it's came to today. So
yeah, that's really, really cool.
So the tractor and the barn, that was provided with grants, and I think the green chute and the barn, that was from a grant as well. So
very cool. Now, do those grants come from like typical avenues that farms would get them from, like USDA and FSA, or is it from like the school or the community?
They're mainly from the school. Yeah, about both.
Okay, you get them from
a little
both
bit
places.
of both. Yeah.
Very cool. Do you see the experience that you and your classmates are getting? Do you see this as an advantage that many schools should take on?
Yes. So this is a really cool experience. So we get to come out here and be outside and work with these. I think it helps build a lot of skills with cattle, and like knowing how to act around them and how to work and the kind of equipment that's required for them. It's a really cool way to be at school and still do something that's a little different. So
yeah, and also like things like this you're doing with others and being able to
share not a lot of schools get to experience this, unfortunately. I think it's really cool. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, thanks for showing us your
Yeah.
side of things. Let's go back up to the barn and
All
we
right.
can kind of finish up our talk a little bit up there and get everybody else to chat. Okay, so Briley, let's walk over here under the shade. So talk to me a little bit about your role on the farm here.
So we have weekly meetings every Monday, and I'm the one who runs those
As the secretary.
as the secretary. And I give everybody their to-do list for the week. I help out wherever I'm needed. Same with Colton. It's kind of laid back, chill. We always talk about what we've accomplished, what we're going to accomplish, what needs to be done with at the barn, what we need to buy, what we need to dispose of, just stuff like that.
You said that you get everybody's to-do list for the
Yeah.
week. How do you acquire that information?
I have Mr. Dunn, second period, ALS animal science. So normally that's in the morning. So we sit down, we have a conversation about what needs to be done. So this Monday we talked about how we're needing new apparel and we're talking about sponsorships. Our fly trap is down over there. We're setting that up. We needed to have an Instagram post posted. We just sit down, we have a normal conversation about talking about what needs to be done, what we can do, and just acquire a list.
Yeah, no, I love that. And then you passed it out to those. Now, I know that everybody kind of shares responsibility as chores. How has the experience of being secretary and also coming out here and doing chores, how has that really helped you?
So normally, like, Mr. Dunn likes to send the boys down here and do all the work, so us girls will be up there doing it. But when I do come down here, I do love spending time with the cows, and whenever I'm able to fix something or have like a helping hand, I always love doing that.
Yeah, like what specifically? Like what's your favorite?
My favorite? I like cleaning the barn. I like organizing the barn. It was very, very messy before we all got down here and cleaned it one day, and we we swept it out, and I can't remember the word.
Like air hose?
Yeah, no, yeah, kinda like
Blew
that.
it out with air?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. Is there anything else about your job that you want to add in, or just your experience?
I'm always the person who, like, they can ask or something, like they can ask me what they're doing for the week, or if they need help with something, I'm there. I kind of have the job of just, I'm a helping hand. If you need help, I'll be there. Just you gotta tell me what to do, when it's due, and I'll help you out.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you for giving me your input. Let's head back up to the barn and we'll kind of finish up with everybody else. Okay. So, Lila, you are COO, so Chief Operating Officer. What does that mean and entail for you on this farm?
So, a lot of my duties are, I help to assist the CEO. That's like...
How do you assist him? Like, what do you do?
So, anything he needs help on, I'm like second in command to him. So he like oversees our whole thing. It's we kind of have it set up as he's the president and I'm like vice president.
Right.
So that's how we go about doing all our business. Like some people that have more defined positions like social media manager, or we have project manager. Any of them need assisting, I can jump in on any task. Help is needed for. But yeah.
Name, like, what is one thing specifically that comes to mind that you've done in the past to help out the CEO?
For our whole team, we worked together one day in class. We wrote on the whiteboard and we said, all right, we need to find cattle producers and we need to find people to get us grain. And we just all sat together, brainstormed. People in the community wrote everyone's name down on the board who would we'd be able to buy cattle from. And then the same for grain, and then we started reaching out to people. We actually just made a post about how anyone can help by donating grain to us, so yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. So you really, like, you guys have positions here, but you really just help everybody. Like, everybody helps everybody here. What about you personally? Like, how has having this farm and this role and this job on this farm really, like, helped you?
Well, I, like, personally didn't grow up, like a lot of them grew up showing livestock and things. I always grew up around that, but I was personally not someone who showed. So this has kind of expanded my knowledge on livestock in general. I've taken ag classes since middle school. And like I said, I've been around it, so I knew about it, but I didn't know as much as everyone else. They've helped to introduce things to me or show me how to do things that I didn't know personally.
So given like your experiences and what you've learned and stuff, and I kind of asked this earlier, but like how do you think that this is going to shape other small schools in the state?
We have brought other schools out to do tours of our farm, and I don't know if that's just because they want to learn about it or they're interested in doing it themselves, but we come out here and just like this, we tell them our whole operation, and if they wanted to take that upon themselves and start one, then they could.
That's awesome. I'm seeing the trend growing, and we saw a residential high school in South Carolina, and it is an ag high school. So I see this trend coming, and I just love meeting people like you guys and seeing farms like this that are doing it, and they're sharing it, and they're showing it, and that's so cool. Okay, so I probably should have asked this earlier, but before we get out of the pasture, how are the pastures really managed? Like, I know you're doing permanent fencing, rotational grazing, but how are the animals moved, and like how does all that work? Is that a question you can answer, or is someone else going to answer that?
Our CEO, Colton, should
Okay,
answer that.
awesome. All right, so Colton's right here. Okay, so yeah, you heard the question. How is it really managed? Like, how often do you move them? Like, what does that look like for you? Or maybe even goals. How does that look like in the future?
So when they first start out, we try to kind of stage it based on their maturity pattern, what stage we think they are. So when they first come, when they're babies finishing weaning, we start them in the back pastures, which are actually 2 new pastures we just had. So it's the first time animals have actually been on them. So we start them back there, and then as they grow and mature and their grain requirements increase, as we get closer to finishing and get them more towards that ideal 1,200 pounds, we move them up and closer so that it's easier to feed them, easier to check on them, keep tabs, make sure everything's working right, check their condition, weigh, everything else. And then in terms of moving them, we actually use a lot of the animal science classes in this class. We take the whole classes out, and maybe their assignment for the day can be to help us move the cattle from one pasture up to the next one so they can get closer to that ideal weight and get some new grass they get to use and eat down.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I love that idea of saying, well, we'll put them back in the back pasture where we don't really have to manage them as hard. And then once we start feeding them grain, we're going to move them up closer so I don't have to walk all the way out there with 5-gallon buckets full of feed. I can just do it right here. That's a really good idea. Where did that idea come from?
I think a lot of it stems from wanting to have the students involved, wanting to have those ag classes involved. It's harder if you have someone new every day wanting to come out and fill a 5-gallon bucket and walk it all the way out to a back pasture and go and check the waters are good and make sure like they're filled up and working right. It's just harder to have someone new do that every day. And not every kid is as dedicated to doing this. So
that's a really good point, and I like that word you just used.
Yeah, not is as dedicated to doing it. So that makes it harder if you get someone who forgets to feed and it's 9 o'clock at night and the cattle need grain. And they don't have to fill up a 5-gallon bucket and haul it all the way across to the back pasture. Just a lot easier if they can come and dump it in a feeder real close to the barn and send pictures, and it's good to go. So
there is some accountability to it. You said send pictures. So how does that work then? You have to check in with Mr. Dunn and say, I fed the animals?
Yep. So when you come out and feed, we will have a list of how much grain each pasture animal gets. And then they'll have to check waters, and they then have to come out and send a picture to Mr. Dunn that, hey, I fed, hey, I checked waters, and then we know everything was taken care of. And if someone forgets, they are responsible for texting Mr. Dunn and making sure they either come do it or someone else comes and manages this and gets cattle fed, because they can't skip a meal, right?
Right.
They don't.
Or at least they don't want to. I wouldn't want to skip a meal.
Yes, they don't want to skip a meal. Since they can't get their own grain, we have to make sure we do that. So we try and have some accountability in there. And then that's also where the test score comes in too. Is if it's a test score and it's going to help their grade or boost their grade, that helps keep some accountability in there too, because they want to get that easy 100% and boost their grade up a little bit.
That's a good point. Like if you miss an assignment, you get an F. If you miss a feeding, you get an F. Yeah, that makes total sense. There's like incentive there.
Yeah.
I love that, and I love how it's incorporated to so many people.
Yes.
I mean, when you're typically running a farm, it is one person. The cows know who you are. They know your voice. They know what hat you wear. I know when we were farming, I started wearing a cowboy hat, and the cows freaked out.
Yeah.
They were like, wait, who are you? I don't even know who you are.
Yeah, exactly.
I took it off, and they were like, oh, I know who you are. are.
Yeah.
So that recognition comes in and just that awareness from them, but also from you. Like that's
Yeah.
a skill you're learning where you're like, no, someone needs to recognize me. These animals need to know who I am, and being able to translate that into having a lot of people. That's awesome. So it flows relatively seamlessly then, would you say?
Yeah, I think for the most part, you always have someone that forgets a feeding or they get busy with sports or something. So that always happens, but that usually gets managed pretty quick. A lot of us live fairly close to the school. I think I'm actually out of district, but I only live 10 minutes away. So if someone needs a feeding covered or something, it's real easy for me to come and do something. So that helps.
Yeah.
And then there's usually always something going on with sports or a teacher meeting or something, and since we are a mostly ag school, that always helps. You can always have maybe a past animal science student. You can say, hey, can you throw in a bucket of feed for the cows? And it usually all works out, but it runs fairly seamlessly. We don't have too many people forget or mess something up, and it's at a point now where it can more or less run itself. So the waters don't need managed every day. Because the calf won't drink a whole trough of water in a day.
Right.
So that helps, and so it runs pretty seamlessly all the way through.
That's awesome. I love that. All right, let's finish up. We'll go in the barn and we'll talk to a couple more people, and we'll let you get to your sports. I know quite a few of you have sports after school, so we'll finish up here. All right, so Grace, we're in the barn now, and you are the events coordinator, right? So what does that mean on a farm that sells their beef to the school and packages it for resale for the community? How do you do events? What does that mean?
So I'm mainly in charge of reaching out to the superintendent and our principal and making sure that everything's okay. Lately we've been doing a lot of ag-based programs. So we went over to 4th grade ag day at the fair, and I was in charge of I came up with the lesson for that and made sure it was okay and did all of that. And there was a pumpkin lesson done actually today, and so I sent out the Google form to all of the teachers and saw what interest they would have in that, and then sent it to the assistant superintendent and the principal of our school and made sure that it was okay. And was how do you feel about this? Does it sound all right? So really, I just kind of email people and make sure that what we're doing out here is the correct way and that everything's done right.
No, I love that. I didn't even think of it being outreach somewhere else. When I hear events, I was thinking you bringing people here. But that makes total sense, doing things like the fair, the elementary school. That's such a good idea, and I'm so glad that you guys have someone to do that. So when you talk about going to the 4th graders, what is it that you're trying to share with them?
Yeah, so that day we talked about beef byproducts. So we're just trying to teach them basically what that is. A lot of them had no idea, had never heard of a beef byproduct, and didn't even know what everyday items had a beef byproduct in it. So our goal that day was just to teach them a little bit more with the knowledge that we had so that they had a better understanding. I
love that. And then they're able to grow up and come to the high school and become a junior and take this class.
Yeah.
And be like, hey, I remember when Grace was an event coordinator, and now I want to be the event coordinator because Grace was my inspiration, and that's awesome. I love that. So what other things are you able to do with on the community level then? I assume you're doing more things out in the community.
Yeah, so soon coming up we'll have a 5-year sponsorship dinner. So we'll invite all the sponsors back and feed them and show them what has happened in 5 years, because some of them maybe do know and some of them don't. And so that's just another opportunity to reach out to them and thank them for helping us get started and the continued support.
Yeah, that's so cool. Is there anything that you want to add about your role here, or maybe what you've learned from being here and being on the farm part of it, not just the coordinator side of it?
Yeah, so I actually grew up raising Hereford cattle. So
you got my heart. I love Herefords.
I know a thing or two about raising cattle, and we sell them for freezer beef. So that I kind of understood, but I've more learned about what really goes into managing it, because that was more of my dad's role, because I was really young, and I still don't really do that a lot because I mainly help out with the goats, but so I've learned about how to really manage it and what goes into, you got to get all the food and all of that stuff, and
No, that's a really good point. Even those of us, I grew up on a farm, right? I'm a generational farmer, and when I was a kid, sure, for 4-H I had to fill out my book and talk about hey Dad, how much feed did you buy for my beef heifer this year?
Yeah.
But when it comes to the business model of it, well, as kids, we're not really brought into that,
Yeah,
right? Like we're
yeah.
not brought into the expenses and the income that you receive on that, and maybe how like sometimes things get hard,
Yeah.
and how to pivot. We just know that like, well, we got to go work cattle, and sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's not, you know, like. But when it comes to like the financial stress of it and making it profitable,
Yes.
that's so important to learn.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you're able to learn that here, as opposed to like when I went off on my own, even, you know, having the experience I did growing up, but also I went to Purdue and I was an animal science major, and then I started my own farm, and I was like, holy crap, I feel like I know nothing. You know, like I need to figure out how to run this as a business, and getting that experience now is so important and so cool that you guys get to do that.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your experiences. We've got one more person to talk to, and that's social media. JC. Yeah, I got it right. Okay, awesome. Thanks, Grace. So JC, now you're social media.
Yes.
What does that mean for this
So
farm?
basically, any post that we make, I am the one who is producing it. So when we came up with our meat sale, I had to put together basically a post on Canva, just trying to get it out there and let the community know that we were going to be doing it. And then anybody who like messages asking like, hey, are you selling any ground beef? I would have to respond to them. Mr. Dunn also does help out. He makes sure that all the messages are getting responded to, and he is making a few posts, but when we went to the 4th grade ag day, he did take pictures and made a post for that, because obviously I was teaching. We just made a post yesterday asking for help because of the operation growing so fast. We were looking for a donation of corn for our grain bank at Shelby Feed.
Okay, very cool. So let's talk a little bit more in depth about social media then. You are a Gen Z, right? So social media, like, shoot, you grew up with social media. But I imagine it's very different.
It is.
Having it as a person when you're a teenager versus running a business. Can you talk through like some of that difference?
Yeah, so I don't post very much on social media, but when I do, it's pictures of like me and my friends. Or
You mean like personally?
Yes, personally, when I post, it's me and my friends when we do something like go to homecoming, or me showing my goats. I post pictures of that. Running the business, I have to make it very professional, and I have to like proofread everything, whereas if it was me personally, I wouldn't do that. I would probably just post it and realize I made a mistake and then probably just wouldn't fix it, whereas I have to proofread it. Ask other people to proofread. I just really want to make sure it's professional and it's getting put out in a good way.
Yeah. Is that hard or easy to do in this day and age?
I would say it's pretty easy for me. I don't post very much on social media, like I said. So I kind of do, like, it's different. So I just make sure that I am being professional, and sometimes I do struggle, like, coming up with what I should say. And so Mr. Dunn will help me come up with what sounds good, what sounds positive about our program, and then I kind of snowball off of it.
Yeah, because how you text your friends is not how you would make a post for the farm.
Yes.
Right? Like the language is very different, punctuation is different.
Yeah.
I think kids now these days don't use capital letters.
Yeah, some don't.
Yeah, okay. I'm aging myself. Man, I'm like supposed to be the cool kid around here, and apparently I'm not. From like a business perspective on social media, what have you learned? Because there are a lot of people out there who have a running successful farm, but the social media is always the hang up. So how do you manage like some of the hardships on running a business on social media?
Yeah, so I try to make all the posts on Canva very catchy. Like I want people to see it. If they don't follow us, I want them to see it and be like, what's that? Like that looks like something I want to learn more about. So I try to make it fun and creative, and instead of just like a picture of our logo and be like, we need corn donated, I try to make like fun fonts and colors, and I try to incorporate our logo into it, but without saying we are Creek Cattle like in the face.
Yeah.
And then I also, people ask questions and they don't know the answer, so I have to really be like, dumb it down a little bit and be like, we actually like explain what we do. Like someone asked if we sold any ground beef from the animals that we get back, and I had to be like, no, we don't. It goes to the school, but like we do sell steaks that they could come buy.
Yeah, okay. Oh, so you changing up the fonts and stuff, have you found success in that? Like, do you feel like you're getting like good impression rates and things?
Yeah, I think we have been getting like, I don't know how many likes normally get on the post, but a lot of people have been liking. I've been showing my friends just because I'm proud of what I'm making,
For
and
sure.
they've been very impressed and saying that it looks nice. And I think it is reaching. I feel like every day I'm getting notifications that we're getting more followers. So I feel like it is reaching more people as we want it to be.
That's awesome. I love that. And we'll definitely make sure to include all of those links in the description so that anyone watching this video can go like and follow and check you guys out and see things. But from your perspective here on the farm, obviously your role is social media, but like we've said before, you all incorporate with chores and help out with to-do lists and projects and stuff. So what is like the main thing that you have learned through all of that?
Really just learning how to operate with people. I did grow up, I grew up raising animals, but it's just me and my siblings, so I feel like I don't have to be as professional where this is. This is a business, and it's not just a family business. This is a business for the school, and once we're gone, the younger generation is going to come up, and they're going to be running it. So I just feel like learning how to make it more of a business mindset is very different than what I have been doing.
How so? What do you mean by that?
Just making sure everything is really put together and there's not really any messes. We just want the barn to look nice. For people driving by, we want them to see how well this operation is going.
You don't have feed sacks blowing in the wind and machinery growing trees through it, and you're trying to keep it nice and clean and organized and also safe, right? Because you have different classes coming out here too, so you want things to be safe as well. No, I totally get that, because on your farm, you're like, well, I know I put a wrench on the ground there. It's right there. I put it there. No one else is going to do anything to it. But here you're like, no, I can't put that wrench there, because what if somebody else needs that wrench? I need to go put it, where everyone is accessible, where it's accessible for everybody. No, that's really awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your side of it and what you're doing. I just absolutely love what you guys are doing. This is so cool. So thanks for sharing your side of it.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Okay, so real quick before we finish up anything, obviously we've been talking in front of this really nice chute system. So this isn't just for blowing money. It's there's a reason to it.
It's not just for the looks.
Yeah. So I think Sam can talk really good about that. So let's grab Sam here. So why do you have the fanciest equipment? Now I say that this is a nonprofit. You guys are kids. So, some people might say, oh, wow, you're really making a lot of money. You have this really fancy equipment. But maybe that's not exactly the case. So what's going on here?
So, sometimes when you think of stuff and you're like, well, sometimes the most expensive isn't always the best and the most safest, but in this scenario it is. So you could go a little cheaper with equipment that's a little less, doesn't cost as much, but when it comes to us, we're kids running it, and so it's kids that are coming out here working on it.
Without experience, right?
And so you want to make it something where it's real easy to use, it's not very complicated for people, but at the same time, it is very safe for other people. So you can put a kid in and tell them what to do, and it's simple enough that they know what they're doing and won't get hurt while doing it. And in this situation, it just so happened that this was the most expensive and came out to be the safest for us. So that's where our grants came in, and they helped pay for all this equipment so that we could be safe and then functional at the same time.
I think that is such a really good, important part, is the safety aspect of it. Because I feel like I keep saying it, but the farms that we see, it's 1 or 2 people running the whole farm, and it's just themselves and that's it. So they don't need a lot of equipment when they're figuring it out themselves. But when you've got a class of, 7 here, and then other classes, and then you got the public coming out and you're doing other tours, you're right, it is very important for safety. You wouldn't want someone tripping over, a rusted out sheet of, metal or something like that. But what has that really, how has that impacted you as you're on this farm?
It's made it a whole lot easier to work with the cattle, because I have cattle of my own that I work on, and the chutes I have aren't nearly as nice, and everything's all tight, not lubricated, and so it's not easy to work with. So it makes working with stuff a little more difficult versus you get over here with something that's very dumbed down and
you
easy
got
to
pulley
use.
systems and chains at
You don't
work
have
and
giant stuff and levers you're having to move, so it just makes it real easy for me personally to use.
Now, what exactly are you using this for? I think that some people would question, well, if you've got animals out on pasture, you load them up into a trailer. What are you using these chutes for?
So we use this, so we have it to where this can run straight through the barn lot. And so we can actually bring in all our cattle that we're raising and getting to weight, and we can check their weights weekly, monthly, however we want. And so we have these wires here that we can hook up a digital scale to, and so we can read their weights and track how they're coming along.
Why would you want to do that?
So we can just check their market weight before we send them off and make sure they're the correct weight.
Okay, so that's where you can throw in weight again.
With this, having this nice equipment, if we get an animal that's sick, we can bring them in to treat them and then make sure that they're all healthy and properly work on them safely.
Yeah. No, I also love that you're running them through often because it's not super stressful for the animal when they get on the trailer. I mean, there are some animals that are in the field the whole time, and then you throw them onto a trailer and they're like, I've never seen anything like this before. I'm terrified, and then they're stressed out going to the processor, but you're already handling them, you're moving them through, they recognize these loud noises, they know the smell, so when they do come in here to load on the trailer, it's like they're just getting weighed again. It's not a big deal, right? Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, thanks for explaining that to me. I love new equipment. Like, seeing some of the things that new equipment can do, you're just like mind blown. You're like, oh, that's so nice and easy. Very cool. Thank you, all of you, for taking time out of your class day to talk with me, show me what you're doing. I mean, this is just absolutely amazing, and the fact that you're able to do this and feed the public. I mean, it's one thing to feed everyone at the school, but you're doing that and you're feeding the public. I mean, that is just so cool. You're learning so many valuable skills. I think so many people can just appreciate this. So, and thank you, Mr. Dunn, for heading this up and teaching these kids some amazing skills, and hopefully more schools will, you know, continue to catch on and keep doing these things. But you guys are all awesome, so thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for coming. We really appreciate it. Help spread what we're doing and hopefully encourage more schools to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, guys.